Comic creators, your new crowdfunding launch sidekick is here. The comic book crowdfunding planner from ComixLaunch is your ultimate step-by-step companion to planning, optimizing, and executing your crowdfunding campaign, helping hardworking creators stay organized, execute with confidence, and maximize success on every launch.
Hey, I'm Tyler James, publisher of Comics Tribe and host of the ComixLaunch podcast,
which has been helping comic creators launch successful crowdfunding campaigns for nearly a decade. In that time, I've seen the same struggles come up again and again. Making a great comic, but no idea where to start with crowdfunding it, overwhelm at all the steps to launch, and fear of missing something important. Exhaustion during the campaign and struggling with the emotional roller coaster of launching.
and finishing the campaign and still being unsure what worked, what didn't, and how to get better results the next time. If any of those challenges sound familiar,
you are not alone, and it's not your fault. Crowdfunding a comic requires a completely different skill set than making one. The good news is I have something that can help. To celebrate the 10th anniversary of ComixLaunch, I've distilled years of my own crowdfunding experience and the insights of hundreds of amazing guests I've had on the show into one essential tool. This new comic book crowdfunding planner is really 4 powerful books in one, designed to help during every phase of your launch. First, it's a launch planner, providing a step-by-step roadmap including guided templates and battle-tested ComixLaunch exercises to build a winning campaign. Second, it's an execution checklist, including action items and pro tips for every aspect of your project so you can launch with confidence. Third, it's a daily campaign journal with dedicated pages to track your campaign progress each day of your launch, prioritize your daily promotional activities, and stay in command of your project. And fourth, it's a post-launch debrief with a proven post-mortem process to capture what worked, what didn't, and what you'll improve on so that your next launch is even better. The Comic Book Crowdfunding Planner is perfect for first-time Kickstarter creators who want a clear roadmap from start to funded.
When it comes to running a Kickstarter, I never thought I could do it until I started using Tyler's tools and tips and tricks.
I have raised over $40,000 US. Everything I have launched has been done using the ComixLaunch tools. It's been the backbone of my success as a creator.
Experienced crowdfunders who want to refine and optimize their launch processes and get to that next level of funding success.
I've raised over $30,000 on Kickstarter. I wouldn't have been able to accomplish this without ComixLaunch. Tyler's guides have made it an effortless and stress-free process.
Tailor-made specifically for comic book creators, writers, artists, and publishers looking to streamline their campaigns and optimize their crowdfunding efforts.
The ability to break down the daunting task of running a Kickstarter into small, well-defined, achievable tasks gave me the confidence to finally launch a campaign.
I really needed an instruction manual, and that is exactly what Tyler gave me.
Perfect for anyone who has struggled with crowdfunding overwhelm and could use a physical tool to help focus before, during, and after your launch.
The timing of finding Tyler and his work was perfect for me because I didn't know what I was doing.
What helped me was getting access to all of the tools that Tyler puts together.
6 campaigns raised about almost $27,000, and I can honestly say I wouldn't have had anywhere near the success without ComixLaunch.
The tools included in Tyler James' planner were essential to getting the ball rolling for me.
Everything I know about running Kickstarters I learned from ComixLaunch.
Finally, it's for all the thousands of ComixLaunch listeners who have been asking for a resource like this for nearly a decade. For rewards, the new planner is available in a number of formats. A beautiful physical planner with a durable faux leather cover, digital PDF version with ready-to-print pages, and discounted multi-pack bundles for creators and publishers with many project launches on the horizon. All backers will be thanked by name on the ComixLaunch podcast, and there's limited show sponsorship opportunities available. I'm also opening my schedule for a few one-on-one crowdfunding coaching and mentorship opportunities, and you can also get access to some of the ComixLaunch Pro courses during this campaign.
let's make your next launch the best one ever.
Back the Comic Book Crowdfunding Planner today, and I can't wait to see what you launch next.
Prepare to launch in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody. Tyler James here with you all, and I'm excited to spend some time with you today. I've got a great conversation lined up. Hanging out in the backstage are 3 amazing creators that have great projects live or soon to be live on the Kickstarter platform. And we're going to talk to them in just a bit. But as I've been doing for these live streams related to the launch of the comic book crowdfunding planner, a book some 10 years in the making, that's sort of celebrating what we've been doing with the whole ComixLaunch project that I've been working on. And this is the 10th year of the podcast and the community and all of that. So there's a launch that's going on for a comic book crowdfunding planner that is impetus to up my game a little bit, do these daily live streams, have more conversations, get more people on the podcast and on the YouTube channel and the Facebook and all of that, and just have some fun with this. And so on today's stream, I'm going to give a quick campaign update, progress there. We'll thank some backers for their support. And I will also teach a daily launch lesson, as I've been doing. I've got a really good one today. Actually, today's lesson is one of my favorite tips, and it's the ultimate tip for campaigns that are sort of stubborn campaigns and struggling to get to that 100% funded mark. And it's a great one to remember. And then we'll transition from that into a great conversation with my guests, Will Allred, Nick Bryan, and Erik Warfield. If there are questions for anybody tuning in live or catching the replay, don't be shy about participating. Leave a comment. Come join us and let's make this interactive and have some fun together. But in terms of the campaign, right now, as you can see, the ComixLaunch Planner, we're closing in on 450 backers, which is an amazing total. We've got over $16,000 raised now, passed over the $16,000 barrier overnight, which was cool to see. And we've got a week to go. So a week still to go for this launch. I'm going to continue to be doing these live streams and having hopefully a grand old time with you all as we try to get this thing funded and out into the world. But I appreciate everyone tuning in. And I especially appreciate the backers that have supported us. I've been trying to thank personally every backer by name. So I'm going to thank a bunch more. Phenom Comics, Bambos Giorgio. I probably butchered that one, but I appreciate your support. Chuck Jones, Matt, Robert Bean, David Stanfield, Kevin Johnson, Blue Ferret, Label 619, Magnetic Press, Anthony Rutzgazer, Michael Cerrone, Mikhail Moran Hamlin, Polyester, Jimmy Z. Johnston, Jared Cooper, Slam Press Tomes, Chris Maka, Zeke Springer, Paul Brown, JJ Maganana, Dan Butcher, Bartos V. Bentkowski, Ludi Sexton, Luke Copsey, Nightfire, Jinx, Philip Jensen, Joe Doherty, John Freeman. There we go. So that's so I'm thanking today. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm excited to see what you can do with the ComixLaunch Planner and how it can help you. And I've got still a little over 100 backers left to thank. But again, appreciate everybody that's making this planner that's some 10 years in the making possible. Appreciate you. Okay. Your daily tip of the day is to use milestone bonuses to break up the journey from launch to funded. Now, I'll be honest, this is one of my favorite crowdfunding tips, one of the ones that I've really been an advocate for, and one of the best tips that I've seen that can help you if your campaign is struggling to hit that 100% funded mark. And so I want to expound a little bit on this tip and this idea and clarify exactly what I'm talking about, milestone bonuses, how to use them, and give you some examples of that. But just to get our definitions straight, I am not talking about stretch goals here. Let's just clarify the difference. Stretch goals are bonuses added to campaigns for your backers above and beyond your funding goal. So if your funding goal is $3,000, you hit it. Stretch goals are things that can keep extra incentives to hit milestones above and beyond your funding goal. That's different than what milestone bonuses are. They're similar, but it's a little bit different. When I'm talking about milestone bonuses, I am talking about bonuses that are added for backers on the road to 100% funding. So these are things that you're going to unlock, or extras that you're going to add to your campaign, surprise extras above and beyond what backers have already pledged for, as you are hitting new funding benchmarks. So what kind of benchmarks can you trigger milestone bonuses with? Well, it can be really anything. $1,000 raised. When you hit $1,000, you unlock something. 100 backers, 25% funded, 50% funded, 75% funded. When you get a certain amount away from your goal, $500 to goal, we're going to unlock something. You could do it based on not just on dollar amount or backer count. You could incentivize really any engagement with your campaign. So you could say, hey, if we get 50 Kickstarter page comments, we'll unlock something. If we get 100 social media shares on the platform of your choice, we'll unlock something. There's all kinds of things that you can incentivize, and you can actually have multiple different things that you are incentivizing throughout a campaign to give backers additional ways to engage with it, and to give you more things that you can celebrate and more wins that you can celebrate along the way to funded. The truth is, what the milestone is less important than simply having some milestones that are within reach. All right. And this is especially true when you've got an ambitious Kickstarter goal and you've got a long way to go towards funded. So let's talk about why psychologically that milestone bonuses work. Let's talk about why milestone bonuses work. First, they give you a reason to celebrate early. A lot of times, waiting until you're 100% funded to celebrate is like waiting until the last page of a book to actually enjoy the book. Actually, you want to have milestones that build anticipation and reward campaign progress all throughout the campaign, not just when you hit that 100% funded mark. All right. And the reason for this is that milestone bonuses keep momentum rolling. If you're during a lull in the middle of the campaign, that's one of the best times to create and reveal a milestone bonus that is just within reach. And there's a lot of like psychological power to being very, very close to the end. It is very hard to, if you're running a race, right? It's very hard to kick it into high gear when the finish line is still miles and miles away. But if you can see the finish line, if you've got people cheering for you when and you're approaching, it's very easy to give it all you've got and to push you towards that finish line. But you can actually, in races, a lot of runners will do this. They will find different milestones where, okay, we're getting close to this. So as I approach this one part of the race, that's where I know I'm gonna push, and I'm gonna break the long run up into discrete milestones so that I feel like I'm making progress, even if that progress is not the 100% funded victory destination. Okay. And what milestone bonuses can do is they can activate and continue to excite and reward your existing backers. A lot of times there's this thing that happens that I know sometimes makes people feel a little bit uneasy as creators, but also as backers, where it's like you're doing all this thing, people back you, and then it feels like all of your attention is like off of the people that have already backed you and just out on, all right, how do I get more people to back me? And so you're ignoring the people that are already in your party in order to try to bring more people to the party. And what actually is the reality is, if you can excite and reward and elevate your existing backers, that's actually going to be the thing that's going to draw more people to it. And so take good care of the people that are already in your campaign. And that's what milestone bonuses can do. And you will also often find that, especially for financial or dollar amount milestone bonuses, when you're very, very close to unlocking a cool new bonus or a reveal, it might be your existing backers that upgrade their pledge, or okay, I'll grab an add-on to get us over the hump, or they might bring in other people to help you get over the line and unlock a cool milestone bonus. Likewise, these milestone bonuses provide extra reasons for all of those fence sitters to back now. Now, there's, psychologically, people tend to fall in two buckets. They're either, first in line, or they wait first in line and they want to be there day one, or they want to be there early as soon as they can. That's a big bucket. But then an equally big bucket is the procrastinators, the people that like, yeah, I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it eventually. And they wait to the very end. But sometimes, because people are busy, if they wait too long, they might wait too long and they might miss the campaign at all. And so a lot of times those fence sitters can be coaxed to jumping in earlier than they might otherwise, if there's a cool extra reason for me to jump in now, and a key unlock, a key milestone bonus that might happen. And what milestone bonuses do that anyone that's played games, or in my case, I've developed games, but they create a little bit of a gamified experience and more ways for creators to win. They're sort of like achievements unlocked, and it makes backers feel like they are contributing to your campaign, and they're a part of the campaign, and that there's action happening during the campaign. So it's always good to see examples of milestone bonuses in action. And here's a great one that Andrew Pauly, who did the Galaxa Freaks book and the Cthulhu Kids. So during one of his launches, super talented artist and creator, but for a while, Andrew, before he got heavy into 3D modeling, and he does a lot of that with his Dice Heads brand now, but he made these really cool paper toys. And one of the things that he did during his Cthulhu Kids launch was that at 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100%, he unlocked downloadable paper toys of his characters that were just free for all existing backers, celebrating each of those key milestones as he worked his way toward funding. And so really cool looking bonus, but also digital, didn't cost him much. And so some tips for milestone bonuses are, you want to keep them low lift. These should be things that look cool, that sound cool, that people can get excited about, but they shouldn't add significant time or cost to the project. Sometimes with stretch goals, when you add stretch goals, they could add significant time, or some extra cost to your project. And that makes sense because, well, your project has exceeded its goals. So it's okay to add some things that you would do with more money if you have it. But remember, with your milestone bonuses, you're not actually raising more than your goal. You actually haven't even hit your goal yet. So you don't want to, your goal should have been sort of set at like a bare minimum that you'd need. You don't want to start making the campaign significantly more expensive even before you've hit the 100% mark. And that's why looking at digital things, or things that are relatively low lift, is the right way to go. So things like digital rewards, or even campaign reveals, unlocking new previews, revealing a new cover, adding a new reward tier. These are things that are perfectly fine for milestone bonuses. You also, when you unlock a milestone bonus, or when you roll out milestone bonuses, that should be a big focus of where your current, day-to-day marketing goes. And so I'll do things, when I've got a milestone bonus that's within reach, I'll say, hey, we're so close to unlocking this, and share that. Once you unlock it, hey, we just unlocked this, and then now we're so close to unlocking Y. And as one milestone gets unlocked and revealed, then you shift to the next milestone. And that's how you sort of break up the road to fund it. So for example, the Wailing Blade Volume 1 series, that was one of my bigger Kickstarter goals in terms of a target. It was a $30,000 goal, I think, for that project that I did with Joe Mulvey and Rich Dewick. And that's a hefty lift. It took a while for us to get there. And one of the keys for us to keep momentum going and to make our backers feel like we were progressing towards that $30,000 goal, even when things slowed down a little bit, was to always have something that was somewhat within reach. But again, these weren't massively, these weren't expensive things. In most cases, these were digital things. Like we put together a digital sketchbook by artist Joe Mulvey, unlocked that at 60% funded. Then another thing that we did was we had some other projects in the works by Comics Tribe, and we were able to unlock special digital ashcan teasers for a couple of new projects. And then we also put together an awesome Killer Comics bundle as our 100% celebration that people were unlocking. But again, these didn't add a lot of time or a lot of expenses to the project themselves. The Comics Launch Planner is really designed to help you remember this strategy and to plan this strategy out with a bunch of tips, and just gives you some options to make sure that you plan this in advance. And then we also do have in the planner a dead zone strategy checklist, which talks about how and shares tips for keeping the momentum going, even when things slow down, and it really incorporating strategies like the milestone bonus strategy into your launches. So in summary, by celebrating the journey to funded and not just the destination, you make your campaign more fun, more shareable, and more successful. And the Comics Launch Comic Book Crowdfunding Planner helps you plot those milestone moments before you even hit the launch button. So I hope you will put this into good practice, especially if your campaign still has a ways to go to get to 100% funded. All right. In just a moment, I'm going to bring on my awesome guests who've been patiently waiting backstage. I did want to remind you that if you are interested in joining me for one of these discussions, we've got 1 week left to go for these discussions. You can go to comicslaunch.com/invite, get on my dance card, and we will have you on to discuss things. But without further ado, let's bring on the crew. Today, I am joined by creators Will Allred, Nick Bryan, and Erik Warfield. There they are. What's up, gentlemen? It's good to have you all here. Let me unmute everybody, and it's good to be hanging with you. I want to do some quick introductions so that the audience and the people catching this on the line know who we're talking to. And so I am joined by Will Allred. He is a writer, professor, and technologist. He's the creator of Crossover Division, Diary of Night, and has contributed to a number of comic book anthologies and academic books on comics. And so Will here. We also have in the house Nick Bryan. Nick is the writer of Comic Book from London. He's has a really cool project live on Kickstarter, which we'll take a look at in just a minute. But he's done work such as The Collected Letters of Courier Z, Death of the Necromancer, Stone Cop, and Fairy Fair. And I'm excited to have him on the show for the first time here. And then we also have, rounding out today's panel, is Erik Warfield, who is an American comic writer currently living in Germany. He's got a lot of experience as a collector himself since childhood to becoming a successful retailer, and now he is both a writer and publisher. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Tyler.
Good to be here with you all. Let's not bury the fun stuff. Let's get right into some comics and some projects. I want to we'll start with Erik, actually, because your project is not live yet, but it's called a great title. I love this title. It's called See You in Hell, #1. What can you tell us about this one coming up?
I like to write war stories. That's kind of my favorite thing to do. And I was reading Dante's Inferno, and it just an idea clicked of what if you were trying to get out of hell as opposed to going through hell and observing all they say that the trenches, the bolgias, and it just sort of grew out of that. So I have my two main characters used to be in the same unit together, and during a mission, one of them betrays the other one and goes into hiding after the war. The rest of the world thinks that he's dead, and when the major character, the other major character, the Major Justice, he goes missing mysteriously, and the super spy comes out of hiding to go find him, and then they have to battle their way out of hell.
Nice. Well, I love the title, and it looks like cool art and a great concept. The pre-launch page just went live. Do you have a target launch date yet?
July 4th.
July. Okay. Yeah. Patriotic.
Patriotic
day.
So. I don't know. I know maybe holidays are bad to make it the first day. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but.
I think if you are going to do it, you got to lean all the way into it. And,
okay, all right.
And so that's
well. Unfortunately, here in Germany, they only blow off fireworks at New Year's, not on 4th of July. So I think I might get in trouble if I blow some fireworks off here, but I'll do my best.
Yeah, we don't want you to get no international incidents as a result of this project. Well, cool, Eric. I'm excited to have you on the panel today. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much.
We also have Bryan, who's got a project that looks like it just got over the funding line and has about 2 weeks left to go. It's called, now we pronounce it, I think I probably butchered it. It's you pronounce it sold?
I do pronounce it sold, yeah. Sold.
Yep.
Yeah. This is a project by me and Phil Apley. We did a one-shot called Stone Cop together a couple of years ago, and then after that, we sort of got together to do something a bit longer. So, sort of Phil came in with a few of the original ideas and themes. It's about these two sisters who are sucked into this sort of corporate conspiracy to turn our souls into rocks using the dark ritual that was on the page that just went past, and then use that as part of a scientific process to bring people back from the dead, and then. They find out a bit too much, and then they end up getting taken away to a prison camp, and it just goes steadily more wrong from there. So yeah, me and Phil, we started talking about the initial ideas, and we spent a lot of 2024 doing some world building and stuff, and then we did the first issue in November, and now we're back with the second one, getting a bit further into the story now that we've established the basics of the whole process. And it's cool.
I like it a lot. Cool looking art, great high concept, and I'm glad to see that it's funded and now moving into stretch goal territory, hopefully. Rounding out the panel today, we have Will Allred. Will has been on the ComixLaunch podcast before, and it's always good to see him again. I missed that dog that he has in the background of the dog poster, but Will is most known for his series Crossover Division, which the 6th issue is live on Kickstarter. Will, for those that are unfamiliar with the CD, please give them the 411.
First off, good morning, Tyler. And every time I talk to you, I have to thank you again, because none of this stuff would exist without you and the ComixLaunch class. I mean, you make it so that any idiot can do this stuff, and I'm certainly qualify as any idiot. So thank you. Crossover Division, we're on issue 6. So the high concept behind Crossover Division is that our stories are invading reality, and reality's threatened to fracture, and the only thing that can save us is really an English professor and a research librarian. They repulse these fictional realities and set reality back to right. And it gives me and the rest of the team a chance to play with, like in the first issue was War of the Worlds, second issue was Dracula, third issue and fourth issue were kind of a Romeo and Juliet thing going on, some Shakespearean drama. Number 5 was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This issue we are getting the Island of Dr. Moreau. I'm a huge huge fan of H.G. Wells and his version of science fiction as social fiction. So I get to play with a lot of these themes and characters that everybody in our culture knows, even though they haven't read the books. I mean, we're soaked in this stuff. This is our cultural inheritance, and it's really great. I try not to just take. So in every issue, there's an essay, a page devoted to an essay talking about the work and the author, where to find it. You know, hit up Project Gutenberg is the bomb. Go to Project Gutenberg and read all of this stuff. But it's a lot of fun. The art and the art team is great. I alternate between Pablo Martinena, he did the first 2 issues in issue 5, and then this issue is by Alice Leclerc, who did 3 and 4 and now number 6. And then I have a great colorist. Ryan Kroboth is just awesome. Brant Fowler does our lettering, and he's also designed the Kickstarter page. Brant is awesome. And then James Powell is the editor for the series. So he takes the first draft, oh my God, somebody can write this bad version, and turns them into something that, you know, is readable. So that's crossover to do.
I mean, you know, all outstanding gentlemen that you're working with on this project, and and obviously with the art, some talented ladies as well. This is kind of, I mean, when I think of a lot of the books that you've hit on the crossover division, it actually reminds me, like, a bunch of these were, and I'm probably dating myself, but there were these comic, like the great literature in comic form that I remember reading in like probably 5th grade or whatever. There's a stack of like the greatest works of English literature that
Classics Illustrated.
Yeah,
Classics Illustrated. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, and so you know, you're hitting on a lot of those ones that I think I remember from there. And so it's definitely a fun concept in that you can kind of like, all right, which classic piece of literature do I want to dive into and have the boys interact with in this series. So this is kind of an interesting crew. We have all of you are sort of working, and I'm assuming, Eric, that See You in Hell is a mini series or
5 issues.
It will be more than 1 issue, 5 issues. Yeah. So we sort of have creators that are all working on series and are at different sort of stages of it. Nick is a 2nd issue, so we've got a 1st issue launch and an issue 6 launch. And I'm curious, like, maybe we'll start with Will. Like, how do you sort of see the difference between launching a 1st issue, launching a 2nd issue, and then fast forward to down the line? Like, are there adjustments that you've made? What's easier? What's harder? And you know, what are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, it's the thing I love about Kickstarter is that we started with issue 1 during the pandemic. And pandemic was horrible for, you know, an infinite number of reasons, but one way in which the pandemic was good was for indie comics on Kickstarter. It was, you couldn't get comics anywhere else. You could get them from the creators on Kickstarter, right, during the shutdowns and everything. So 1st issue launched, and we grew from 1st issue to 2nd issue to 3rd to 4th. Then I think twofold. One, I think Kickstarter started changing a little bit. There's maybe a little bit harder to get discovered because there are more projects, but there are also more backers. So, you know, all in all, Kickstarter has just been great. But with there was a huge break for us between issue 4 and 5 because we did the hardcover, and the hardcover was it certainly funded and it was successful. It was probably not as successful as I was hoping it would be. So when we launched 5, by that point, I think a lot of things had changed. It wasn't as easy on Kickstarter. milestone bonuses. I need to be doing those now, and I'm not doing those. Tyler, I know these
taking
things,
notes.
but I'm taking notes. But I really think it's one of the things that I've discovered is for these subsequent launches, I really need to do a better job, I think, of priming my mailing list. I mean, I talk about it all the time, but then also giving some more runway so that I can promote, the pre-launch page and get as many people on board before launch, so I can have those really great first 2 days to get me as close as I can get, and then the middle part, which is sometimes difficult, but get me close enough or even funded so that the last 2 days, which are of course typically big days, either push me over or get me further past into stretch goal territory. But really, I think it comes from the prep. I mean, a long runway and making sure that I'm priming my mailing list. And honestly, another thing that you talk about a lot in the Comics Launch class is growing that mailing list. I've not put a lot of effort toward growing that mailing list. I usually just bring in people from the Kickstarter launches, and honestly, that's another thing that I need to be doing better. There's which is one of the reasons having this book is going to help me, because it'll be right there. Oh, do this step. So it'll be awesome.
Yeah. There are days where I'm like, oh man, I've forgotten more things that I've known to do than I've actually than I remember, and that's where going back to your checklist, going back to the basics, the things that got you here, exactly. is so much. And when I feel bad about that, I also remember, like, Tom Brady, 45 years old, was still doing this, like throwing the same warm-ups, like doing the same route trees and things like that before every game, before every practice. It's like the stuff you can't drill it too much, and you can't put it into practice, but it can be easy to sort of take your foot off the gas, or just let certain parts of the creative business sort of get a little bit neglected when there's so many other things vying for your attention. You brought up the pandemic as being a key time for comic book creator crowdfunders. And Jesse Judy watching. What's up, Jesse? I said the pandemic was nitro fuel for comic creation and crowdfunding. Yeah, and I think a lot of the launches that we've seen over the past couple of years, many of them sort of came out of the pandemic, and it was this brilliant confluence of not only was there a massive decline in the total number of projects launched on Kickstarter for a bit initially in the pandemic. People at home had more, like a lot of things happened where people's income was protected, but they didn't have all of the other things competing for ways to spend it. People weren't going out. We weren't doing so. Yeah, it definitely was a great season for creators and that were launching on Kickstarter, which I think surprised a lot of people who were sort of doom and gloom thinking. But yeah, Nick, I mean, I want to see if there's anything that you want to riff on what Will brought up specifically around, a sophomore launch for a series that you want to tell over time.
Yeah, I mean, this is my 7th campaign, but it's the first one I've done that's been like issue 2 of anything. Yeah. Everything else has been either an issue 1 or a one-shot. So I was a bit, I don't know, interested / nervous to see how this would go, because I had heard some of the things Will was saying I'd heard before. I think Carl Kerschel might have said something similar on the Comics Launch podcast, actually, that he felt that series weren't growing steadily the way that they perhaps had been before. So I was, interested to see how it would go. I think what kind of ended up happening was we had a very, very strong first few days. We did a lot better than I expected at the very beginning, which I guess is a good sign that, people who liked the first issue came back, and then it perhaps relaxed into a bit of a holding pattern, a dead zone, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Perhaps a bit quicker than it did in the first issue, which I don't actually know if that's typical when doing a series, but that's certainly what we found. And I've just been trying to make myself work a bit harder in the last week or so. I think I put the project in front of Tyler as part of a separate chat in Discord a week or two back, and I've done a few of the things he said, which I think may have helped us get over the line as well. So I've been trying to do a bit more in the last week or so to try and push it forward, which seems to have worked, because I did think for a while we'd had to wait till the last week to actually get over the funding line, but no, we're there, so it's cool.
Yeah, and one of the nice things about the sophomore issue or the second issue is that even if like as your campaign, and you still got a lot of time, so I would not be surprised if you actually exceed your backer count for issue 2. But you know, it looks like the first launch raised a little under £1,000 and had 95 backers. You're already over 1,100 with 30 less backers, which happens and is the ideal for when you're launching a sophomore issue. Is like, even if your backer count dips a bit, you can often raise as much or more because you've now have 2 titles to sell, and average pledge levels can go up a bit. So that's definitely a good thing. So Erik, you know, you've seen where these folks are moving forward with issues 2 and 3, but you're facing the prospect of getting that first issue 1 launch off the ground. And I'm wondering,
exactly.
How are you feeling about that? And also, what are you thinking about in order to get this first launch successful, but then hopefully have some longevity with the series on Kickstarter?
Well, I'm trying to pull in some people who had backed our previous campaign that didn't fund. It was completely unsuccessful. I'm thankful for your positivity all the time, Tyler. You're always so, you're not negative in any way. And I feel like the old man on the front porch with, you know, sitting with my shotgun in my rocking chair going like, this stupid Kickstarter, right? And I'm blown away at the things that I've learned so far in the ComixLaunch course about, you know, don't get mad at Keanu Reeves for having $1 million thing. It's fine. It's bringing people in. He's not taking money from you. He's bringing more people in. And that was a difficult thing for me to to come to terms with. But yeah, I guess I was getting a little caught up in thinking, you know, one shots were better. But, you know, everything, like in retail, when books are late, when people have to wait 2-3 months between issues of a miniseries, it for my experience, it kills books. But I have to understand that people on Kickstarter and people here that support you and are part of your list, your email list, or just your backers, like they know that going in, it seems like you almost run more of a risk putting out the books too close together, because then they kind of burn out on spending $10-20 an issue on something that's coming out too soon. I think if you pull that kind of Fantagraphics angle of putting stuff out quarterly or even bi-monthly, it seems like that's a little niche that you can kind of fall into. So that's encouraging. I did that other campaign because I thought that a one shot would be better, that it would be more appealing to people. Obviously, I completely underestimated how anything you needed and what you needed to do. This book, See You in Hell, was actually going to be published by a publishing company in America. We got picked up in November of last year. Everything was going fine. It was supposed to come out in January. And then the editor kept emailing me and going, "Oh, it's March. Oh, it's going to be May." And then right around February, I sent one of my other emails to him, and I'm like, "So when can we start getting this thing going?" He's like, "Oh, you know what? See You in Hell. It's perfect for an October launch. It's going to be our Halloween theme. It's going to be in October." And I started getting a little wary of what was happening. And then literally the hour before Stephen and I were going to launch Evil Eye, the email came over the thing, and Blood Moon Publishing was closing their doors, and they ceased all business operations, and all books were canceled. And I just thought, oh man. But then, Tyler, in your positivity, I said, no, this is a sign. This is a great sign that I should take it DIY and do this all myself. And then, yeah, and then Evil Eye didn't get funded and it failed, and I got a little despondent, but again persevered, and I decided to take this I brought the funding goal way down. It's not anything close to what it's cost us to make it, basically. But if we get the ball rolling on it, then like you said, with like Nick with the second issue, you hit a higher goal with less people because you had more to offer. And as you keep rolling into each issue and coming up with, like, I've been sitting here since this thing started, like with a pencil, writing all this stuff down for other ideas for milestones to hit and things like that. I think you can start like you had said in one of the talks, like or this one, gamifying the experience and kind of bringing more people in and raising more excitement towards it. I'm excited to do that. So I'm hoping by the time you get around to the second one, maybe later on this year, it won't be October because this is going to be July to August. So maybe December or January would probably be good for the second issue. That's I'll talk to you later. I'll ask you. I'll send you an email.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's getting the first thing underway and delivering on it. And
yes,
but yeah,
got to get that. Yeah.
I something that you said, and I don't know, with your sort of unique background as a lifelong comic fan, but also time in retail.
Yeah.
I do think, and I also look at my own experience of, like, there was a big part of where my core focus was like books on comic book shelves and trying the monthly thing and building that following and mass retail, direct market. Sometimes that experience is great and the crossovers and it helps amplify your campaigns, and you're able to draw in retailers that support your projects and other things. But sometimes also that mentality, or those, like, oh, well, it's got to be monthly, or monthly is like that. When you go to launch it on Kickstarter, sometimes you're better off if you kind of have a fresh slate and you're just focusing on the crowdfunding mentality and don't have all of this other baggage of, well, a comic has to cost less than $5, or like if you're doing a serial, yeah.
Or just the fact that books, thinking in terms of, like, I got to sell 10,000 copies of this comic. 10,000 copies, that's fairly successful. I got to go through Diamond, and I get Diamond numbers back, and you sold 9,000 copies of a book, and you're like, oh, all right, that's fantastic. When you have 77 backers show up to something, that's it was a little disheartening to just go, oh wait, I couldn't even sell 77 comics. Forget 100 or 5,000 or 300, but to know that you can be this successful with cultivating 100 backers, 200, 300 backers. These guys are putting out books consistently with 300 backers, or obviously some are more and many are less. That's encouraging. It's not as daunting as trying to get your Diamond numbers back and get in the catalog and chase rainbows with that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, but we'll see where things go with direct market distribution in the future, now that Diamond is in new hands and so but I do know for a while there, like, even getting a 9,000 copy order would put you in the top, in the upper echelon, and most outside of like Image, most publishers for most books weren't even hitting those numbers.
No.
And that might even be just on a number one, where things then get slashed. And like, even though it's like a few, like, thousands versus the hundreds of backers that most Kickstarter projects go, it's also, if you think about it, like, to get those 9,000 copies ordered through Diamond, it might actually only be a few hundred retailers that are ordering your book, and they're just making the decision to order them at scale. But
who knows how many are going to be sitting in dollar books later, or how many didn't sell.
Right.
And I've liked your take on you're putting the book directly into the hands of the people that want it. You're not like having to convince a retailer he needs 10 copies of it, and then he sells 2 and he's like, oh, okay, well, whatever. Why did I order 10 copies of that stupid book? Right. I'm trying to embrace that. I'm trying to.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a mentality shift for sure. For sure. So we have Nick and Will are sort of in the middle stretch of the Kickstarter campaign, 13 days to go. Will, you've got less than 800 or less than 700 to funded. Nick's just funded. What's your approach to just keeping the momentum going on a daily basis, and when you're sort of in the middle of a campaign, like what are like how much time for a launch? Because you both, I assume, have other priorities pulling you, but like Will, what kind of activities are you doing in the middle of a launch in order to, and how much time are you putting in these days?
Well, I'm a big fan of BackerKit because it lets me do some things that Kickstarter Pledge Manager and Kickstarter just like BackerKit Launch that you can't do with Kickstarter. Although I'm kind of using BackerKit Launch before the launch, the day of the launch, and then I've used it after the first week to message people, previous backers that have not backed this campaign yet. So that's a good thing. I then went in and just messaged, like I went back to Crossover Division 5 and messaged all those backers saying, hey, we've launched, here's the link, we'd love to have you back, those kind of things. I did that one day, and then the next day I did the hardcover back to number 4 and then back to number 3. It's weird because I do have a day job and I had to travel like this. Let's see, that was last week, I think. So I didn't get to do much last week because I was, morning to night, go home, get to the hotel and crash at that point. So I'm trying to start rolling stuff again, and what should I do? I'm gonna message Crossover Division previous backers. I'm gonna probably hit BackerKit again. I do need to get with Brant and get some milestone rewards out there and, solidify the potential for stretch goals. I already have kind of an idea in mind, but we haven't, we don't have our images yet or anything like that set up for it. But ultimately just reaching out, talking to you guys and being on, this, getting the campaign out in front of as many people as I can, because honestly, the campaign pages that Brant designs, and if you guys do your own, great, that's awesome. But being able to offload it to someone as professional as Brant so that he can just make it look awesome, and I can just hit the button to launch is an amazing freeing of time on my part, right? So I can hopefully focus on the other things. But I did want to jump back just a second to something that Erik was saying, and shout out like Mike Shea and Miskatonic High. I mean, he's up to like issue 26 and he's done them all on Kickstarter. Tart by Kevin Joseph, who's a really good friend. He's doing another hardcover, and I think he's going to be launching 17 real soon. So it can work, and it can work with a tremendously fewer number of backers than the old John Byrne. What is it, 5,000? If you had 5,000 or 10,000, I can't remember what it was. If you had that many people that always supported your work, then you're always going to be able to produce work, right? So I still think Kickstarter is just this amazing, amazing thing for us indie creators, and the community around Kickstarter, the ComixLaunch community, the indie comics community are all so supportive that, it makes it easier on all of us because everybody wants everybody to succeed.
Yeah. I'm curious, Nick, have you do you use BackerKit Launch?
No, I haven't used BackerKit before because I've honestly seen it mostly as a tool for fulfillment, and I've never, I don't know, I've usually been happy enough just doing fulfillment with the Kickstarter tools.
Yeah. Something that I think for your case in particular, the BackerKit, because I'm sort of looking at your history, right? And you said that this is the first time you're doing a series, and you have a lot of sort of one shots and sort of a disparate amount of projects. It would be interesting to see, just by going over to BackerKit Launch and connecting, they have a free sort of analyzer or whatever that will show you how many backers you have that haven't, like past backers across all of your campaigns. It'll pull them all in and they'll say like how many of those haven't yet backed your new project. And then so that's good to know, right? And that could also, the way it works is it's like a one-time fee of $99, but then they give you the ability to message only backers that haven't backed yet. And so I'd be curious to see what that pool of backers would look like for across your campaigns, and then it might be something that is worth taking the flyer on in order to just amplify.
Yeah, there's something similar to that in Kickstarter, isn't there? There's some sort of like advanced analytics or something that tells you how many people have returned from like past campaigns. I did have a quick look at that, and I think inevitably there was quite a high percentage from sold one and then sort of trailing off, going back.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Shane Chebsey tuning in, just talking about the community on both sides of the Atlantic. Yeah, we are uniting across the Atlantic here. So what else? What else are we thinking about in terms of just where a lot of you are paying attention to the world of comics, trying to read the tea leaves, figure out where things are going. What kind of things are on your mind or going forward in this world of comics and crowdfunding?
I'll jump in.
I should have done the talk radio thing where I name somebody's name first and then start talking. talk like you make a name, you make a long-winded statement. And I'm definitely not Meet the Press or what are those like Morning Joe or talk shows where they do that.
No, you've done a great job giving us all equal time here and bouncing around on it. I guess I'm intrigued by, I mean, it's not even something that necessarily is influenced by Amazon per se, but the peer-to-peer, the person-to-person. I feel bad for stores in a way because I'm not sure what's going to happen with them so much with all of this, but I know a lot of stores are struggling. A lot of stores in America are going to be struggling because not only are there stores that owe Diamond money, there's a boatload of stores that Diamond owes money, and that's going to be another nightmare for places. But the UK, I think, is all right because that division is completely separate, so that's going to be okay. But the idea of all of us being able person to person, right? We're directly connecting with our people. There's no middleman per se. I mean, Kickstarter is a host. It's not a middleman, but like payment systems now, they cut out banks in a way. They can, like PayPal, for instance. You can I can sit there at a convention and someone can PayPal me the money for a book, and I get the money goes to my PayPal account, that I hand them a comic book and they walk away and everything's great. We didn't swipe credit cards. Well, I guess they'd have one on file if they didn't have money in their PayPal account technically. But I guess that angle, that's something that's kind of fascinating to me. I mean, I hate to see smaller stores go under. It started with stores having to diversify so much. Like when you started walking to comic book stores and they had more pop vinyls than they did comic books, like that starts to get weird. You want to diversify.
I think the same thing with at conventions where it's like, I've been walking up and down these aisles and I haven't seen a single comic book or comic creator for a while.
I was just at Comic-Con Brussels last weekend, and it was the last really good show I went to was Calgary, but that was over 10 years ago. And we went a couple of years, and we realized that at a certain point, most of the people that were there for the autographs. They wanted to meet Nathan Fillion. They wanted to meet the people in Star Wars. They wanted to do stuff, and we noticed that the comic books in general were like Artist Alley at San Diego Comic-Con. They just got further and further and further shoved away. And Brussels was pretty similar. There were a number of people that had comic books there, but no one was making a lot of money. But you'd walk past an anime booth with boatloads of just completely unlicensed knockoff merchandise from stuff, and those guys couldn't make money fast enough. They were just standing there, people throw money at them, swiping cards. Sum Up, everybody here has Sum Up. It's like a little card reader. Maybe Nick knows if you're in England.
Yeah, I've got one of those. Yeah,
Sum Up. I was blown away. It was fantastic.
I have different brands, but yeah, it's this. Yeah,
that thing. It was awesome. And I'm sitting there like an idiot with my phone. I got Stripe. I thought I was being really smart. Nah, man, that Sum Up thing was people were just taking money left and right with that. It was really, really good. But
yeah, especially since the pandemic, these things are it's basically what everyone does now. There's barely any point in taking cash to half the cons I do now.
Yes, and I thought, I'll have cash. I'll go to have my little bag here with it. No one wanted to exchange money at all. No one wanted to touch it, especially in Belgium. Like in Brussels specifically, the hotel we stayed at, cashless. Restaurants you went into, cashless. They didn't even want to touch money. They were like, no, just put your card right here. So it was interesting.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I used to. It used to be one of the things that was most fun about conventions, because like even if you like it was a break-even convention, at least you're walking out with like a big stack of cash, so that you felt like it's like, oh, forget about what I paid for the table and the travel and all the other stuff, but I got it right here in my hand.
Yes.
Now a lot of times you walk away from conventions and it's like, even if it was a good show, you don't have a lot of cash on hand to show for it. It's interesting, and what you brought up with just changing markets and the future of retail, and I mean, I think a lot of us, we're all gentlemen of a certain age. We have fond memories of going to local comic book shops, or even in some cases buying comics off the shelf and things like that. But the behaviors of like the next generation coming up. I just got somebody soliciting me about setting up a TikTok shop that's basically like QVC on TikTok, for various properties. And but when I think about, the young people I know, they're not spending time at a mall or really doing a lot of like retail shopping. But they're still buying a lot of stuff, right? So platforms like Kickstarter do potentially give us the ability to at least be where they already are, which is on their phone and connected to the internet. So,
yeah, I've been to a few shops recently. I went to a new shop called Lighthouse Comics in Folkestone, which is a sort of coastal town in the UK. If anyone's listening who's near it, it's a lovely shop. But yeah, and they've opened quite recently, and they're very like graphic novel and collected and children's comics and stuff focused. They're like the single issue, monthly comics are just a sort of a couple of shelves at the back. I think that's increasingly where I think the audience probably is.
Which is great. That's fantastic. Graphic novels, you're getting that bigger. I don't know if maybe manga had something to influence with that. It allowed people to think of it less like a newspaper, like it's just something that you collect every week. If people aren't thinking like that, I noticed with the shop we had, once it was books like Walking Dead and Saga were the ones that those graphic novels, we sold individual issues, but those graphic novels, like that's what people wanted. They wanted that bigger chunk of story, and it really changed a lot of things. You didn't need to be just into Chris Ware and waiting around for the next Acme Novelty Library, which, he was just going to put out the book, right? But I think that was a big hurdle for American people to get over. But I think here in Europe, I've noticed bande dessinée, right? Everybody, like in France and in England, everybody really loves the graphic novels. They don't like the individual issues as much at all. Even old issues, no one even cares. But
well, to paraphrase a really wise man, it's not always in the launch; it's often in the relaunch, right? And there you go, Tyler. That's really one of the great things about us doing comics on Kickstarter. And first off, I would not recommend deciding to do a 20-issue series because not my finest moment. But anyway, we're working on it. Because we do those individual issues, so we're getting those individual readers. But by collecting it and throwing additional variant covers or maybe a bonus story or something into a collected edition, we potentially have access to all of those previous readers and then the people that just like those collected editions, right? I don't care about floppies. Give me a hardcover, give me a trade paperback, right? So Kickstarter lets us do both, which is, I think, pretty awesome. We can get all that stuff. And when we're doing a hardcover campaign, I have all the back issues. Hey, you want a hardcover? Great. You want the issues? Great. We got those too. Because the cool thing about, and I should have mentioned this earlier, is that as we relaunch, and Tyler brought this up, suddenly we've got a first issue and a second issue now, right? So we're getting that higher per pledge, average, Well, third issue, we've got 2 more, fourth, fifth, sixth, and so on. We've got all of those issues that we can then bundle together in, print catch-up bundles or digital catch-up bundles, which, is another way that we can meet the readers where they want to meet us, right? And I think it's just pretty darn awesome.
Do you guys feel like there's a change or like a mental change in your writing style where, because there's a gap in the issues for like an ongoing series or a continuous series, where you really have to, like, yeah, you always want the cliffhanger, but to get them to come back, but the meat of the story, like, you have to tell something in that issue. Because I feel like a book like Bendis's Ultimate Spider-Man back in the day, I feel like that would have died on Kickstarter because nothing happened from issue to issue. Like, it seemed to me like it was specifically written to be a graphic novel, to eventually get collected. The 6 issues was the story, and you weren't necessarily getting something every time. Even Walking Dead but like a book like Saga, like Brian K. Vaughan in Saga, like, each one of those 24-page issues was meticulously crafted, and you got a story in that issue, and yet it directly led right into the next one, and then the next one, and the next one. So a book like that seems like it would do better in something like Kickstarter. Do you guys feel like you make an effort to really pack something into a single issue to make sure there's a story there, and then, like for you, Nick, I guess, because right, like that's something you're doing now. If I get the impression right, you did mostly one shots before.
Mostly. There was a graphic novel I did as well, which was sort of 4 chapters collected together. But yeah, when I'm doing Sold, which is the first one I've sold as so far as like single issues. Said the name twice. First one I've done as sort of single issues, one campaign at a time. I do feel that because I'm doing these one campaign at a time, and there's going to be realistically like at least 4-6 months between them. I think there's about 5-6 months between issues 1 and 2. Because it's like a new, I don't know. Yeah, I guess as you're saying, a new like purchase action, a whole new decision to come back for book 1. Because I'm sure, people are probably psychologically aware that eventually they could just wait till the last issue 6, and just buy the bundle, or they could wait for the collection. So, there has to be some desire to like read it as it comes out and have that individual reading experience. So I do feel sometimes in a level that's quite pressuring, but I'm trying to pace everything in and plot it out. But yeah, I want each issue to have, a beginning, a middle, and end, and at least some kind of dramatic climax. I mean, because obviously I loved the Bendis Ultimate Spider-Man stuff and that sort of thing. That's what sort of kept me reading comics when I was a late teenager and everyone else was stopping. But
I mean, something that's nice about Will's concept is that you're like, all right, each issue is going to focus on one key piece of literature, which to a certain extent has to have a beginning, middle, and end, and probably a cliffhanger to set up the next one, built into the premise, which probably helps provide you some structure and keeps you a little bit disciplined so that it feels like it could appeal. Yeah.
Well, and honestly, I probably leaned in a little bit too much to that serial nature because the entire series is written. All 20 issues have been written. We have done the editing on through issue 8. Issue 7 is done with the black and white art, and Ryan's going to be working on it just as soon as he finishes up Alice's story in 6, and we get that one. So what I did when I was writing, because I've been writing this over the last 3 years, is I'm like, okay, what am I doing this issue? Let's make this issue here. And I knew that when I was talking to James, I'm like, dude, we're coming up. I finished the 20th issue, but there's a lot of crap I didn't set up, and I know I didn't set it up. So we're going to go back, and that's one of the things that James and I did is we looked over 9 through 20, and we said, okay, and I try to plan things in like 4-issue arcs, right? So we want to put some stuff in here in this arc. We can go back and add that here and add that here. So now that I finished that kind of serial focus, like the adventure this month, I really, with James, I wanted him to make sure that we go in and we put everything so that if you've been reading it month to month, great. Or sorry, issue to issue is definitely not month to month. If you've been reading it issue to issue, great. But I also want, if you sit down and, we do an omnibus or we have 5 trades or we have 5 hardcovers or whatever, right? If you read the whole thing, I also it's important to me that it stands up as one big story, because it does have a beginning, middle, and an end, even though we're doing a lot of individual, what's the monster of the week or what's the story of the week that, we're interacting with. It's hard. It really is hard. I'll be honest. It's hard to have both of those modes of thinking, which is why I didn't do it initially, or I didn't do it enough. I mean, I kind of knew I wanted to hit some things, throughout the remaining issues, but there were a lot of things that I didn't hit that I know really need to be in there. And that's something that James is really helping me bring out and fix, as we work on the scripts for 9 through 20, in the coming months.
Yeah, I'm currently writing issue 4, and there have been occasions where I have slightly cursed myself going back and writing back when I was writing issue 1. It's like, you could have made your life a much easier there, mate. You could have done that.
Yeah. Past Will. Past Will.
Yeah, but I do think you're right, Eric. Is that like the sort of super decompressed nature and that kind of storytelling that Bendis sort of got famous for, where it took him 6 issues to tell the same chunk of story that Stan Lee did in 3 pages, something like that.
It was exciting, and I wasn't, I was only trying to point out that it is its own kind of technique, and I think it was a technique to sell graphic novels, because I think they saw a change in the industry at Marvel at that point and went, we need to sell graphic novels. This isn't the 1970s anymore. You don't need to you don't know if that kid's coming back into the liquor store again. So that story needs to be here at 22 pages, and that's it. You should be able to pick it up, read it, and not have to read anything before or after in order to get what you want. And so that's evolved in a big way.
Yeah, but I think it was probably also largely due to the changing demographics, where it wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't that people were like, this is there was always the rule of thumb where treat every single comic book like it's someone's first or their first experience with the character, and that was kind of the case, where there's a lot of retelling what was in the last one and making sure that it was a jumping on point, when the reality became that for many of the the audience that was coming back each and every week, they weren't necessarily that kid just discovering the book. It was like, grown men coming in each Wednesday or once a month to catch up on their things, to the point where like spending any chunk of time recapping the past issue, kind of a waste, or could feel a little bit like a waste or redundant or talking down to the audience. So, that may have had something to do with it. I do. One of the things that I did do for a couple of the volumes that we've put out recently with the serial sync, because there was, bigger chunks of time between issues. And then also as the series was, we were doing more callbacks to things that might have happened in issues that released literally years ago. It felt necessary and important to have to insert like a previously on page. That's almost like to get people caught up, so that they're not like, oh wait, it's 6 months before when I read the last issue, what the heck happened, or some characters that were showing up. It might have been 3 years since that character has like appeared in the pages of this book. So, that was sort of one, just from the product standpoint and to keep the audience with us standpoints, a change that I made to the book that we hadn't done previously. But
I think you've got a really good point there. I and Erik as well, because I think if you look at that super decompressed storytelling, and I don't mean to, Brian Michael Bendis is obviously an amazing writer. I'm not. I hope this doesn't feel like I'm picking on him, okay? Because I'm not picking on him in particular, but that super decompressed storytelling, I think you really need infrastructure for that.
Yes.
You need like a publishing company. You need to be out on the stand every month, and that takes a lot more infrastructure that us indie guys don't necessarily have.
You don't have the time.
And then and then to Tyler's point, I think that recap is, I watched a lot of TV in the old days, right? Remember, they had 22 episode seasons, and if anytime they were going to bring somebody back, you got that previously on House or previously on Supernatural or whatever, to bring those, hey, this is what happened before, and we're going to show you some clips from it so that you are prepped for this issue. And that recap page, I think, is awesome. I could probably, because that inside front cover, I do a kind of this is crossover division, and here are our two characters, kind of prepping them. I don't really talk much about previous stories. I just kind of say, this is the premise, these are the characters, here's the title and the credits, go, kind of thing. So a recap page is, I think, a really great idea that I'm actually writing that down right now. So thanks, Tyler.
No, I'm thinking about that as well. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned.
Actually,
go ahead.
So, sorry. And one thing that, and I just thought of this because I think Kat Calamia and Phil Falco, who do a lot of projects, and they're good friends, and they do some amazing work. But I was looking through one of their issues, and I was like, they have a QR code to their mailing list on one of the pages in their comic. Like, oh my God, why am I not doing that? That is that's on the list too. So I mean, there are some really cool. A lot of creators are doing some really cool, innovating things out there, and it's not theft, because they want to share and they want to make sure that we're doing these things too, so that we can all succeed. So I love that. It's awesome. There's always something new that we can try.
Yeah.
And see if it works for us.
Well, Tyler, was it Jesse Judy recently? One of the last interviews that you did, who was the guy that had the crystal?
It was Jesse, I think.
It was. That blew my mind. That was like the coolest thing I'd ever heard anybody do. That was fantastic.
He basically said his opt-in rates to his email went from next to nobody actually going through the
over 70%
and scanning it and doing and going to the landing page and doing it, versus the RFD tag crystal thing that was like a physical thing that would bring it up, and then all of a sudden people were actually doing it. So
Very
yeah,
cool.
Will, you mentioned John Byrne earlier. Like one of the first comic books I can ever remember reading when I was a little kid was a Marvel team up, 53, something like that, of Spider-Man and Iron Fist. And it was John Byrne, and it's Steel Serpent on the cover, right? And it's Misty Knight jumping out of the car with the gun. That first page, I must have read it 1,000 times when I was a kid, but that first page is John Byrne, and I don't even know who wrote it, doing a recap of probably what was happening in maybe one of the Iron Fist magazines or something, but he's doing it while Iron Fist is like working out. So he's like punching the bag, he's on the pommel horse doing stuff, and the whole time he's like, "Oh man, back in the day, I remember when this happened, and oh man, I heard this on the news the other night," and he's going through, and that's how they worked in that recap. And it was just because it's fluid. It's not like you're reading something stagnant. It's happening in the story. You're watching Danny Rand work out, getting he's all sweaty. He gets his towel later on, and then Misty comes in and she's like, "Hey, baby, what's up?" And they all hang out, and then the story starts. And it was just a really fluid way to make that happen without making it, like I said, stagnant.
Yeah, there's such an art to that you know you see creators, you know, and I'm gonna date myself definitely, but I am particularly drawn to the books of 80s Marvel, maybe 80s DC to a lesser extent, but 80s Marvel, because you had Chris Claremont doing this auteur run on X-Men, right? And it's just amazing how it works individually as single issues, but as a giant uber text, I mean, of 10s and 20 issues, you have all of that stuff there. I'm not as familiar with it, but you look at Paul Levitt's, the Levitt's method of plotting on Legion of Superheroes. You have your A plot, your B plot, your C plot, and then he rotates through, and there's this really, the creators of the 70s and 80s were really expanding what our tool sets, honestly, the tool sets that we get to use now by, hey, let's do our recap while Iron Fist works out. That's great, because John Byrne can draw. Awesome. Let's just do that. I mean, it's we stand on the shoulders of giants. I mean, it's amazing that we get to use the same tools that sometimes they created to tell our stories the way we want to tell them. And now I still have a problem. Why did we get rid of thought bubbles? Come on, man. It's a tool that we could still use,
100%, absolutely. And Jean Grey's the little telepathic. It's the thought bubble with the little lines of telepathic. That is actually in See You in Hell. That was a specific thing I talked with our letterer Andre about, where I was like, I have the X-Men, one of the things back here, and I scanned it, and I was like, we need to do this when this guy is talking, because he's like Swamp Thing, right? So he's going to be in your head talking and stuff. So I'm totally with you. I got to look up that Paul Levitt's thing too, because that sounds like they're in that Vince Gilligan, Chris Carter land, where they all have the cards, right? They all have the cards. They all have to have the same handwriting. They all had to take a class, so they all write the same, and so that they can all write their little cards and put them up on a giant wall, and then they can start moving the puzzle pieces around, and they formulate all the episodes of like Better Call Saul, going all the way back to the X-Files. That's how they did it, with scenes on these little 3x5 cards that they mounted on a giant wall in their writing room, and they all had to take turns and move stuff around. And I got to look up that Paul Levitt's thing. That sounds interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of wisdom over the years accumulated, and we try to apply what we can to what we're doing now here on Kickstarter and everywhere else. Well, great conversation, folks. This has been a great time to just hang with you all and talk shop. Want to give everyone a final chance to point out something cool about the project that they have live right now. Maybe start with Will on the crossover division. Any particular rewards or things that you want people to know about for this book?
Well, we've got, of course, variant covers, because of backers like to be able to choose their cover. and we've got pick 3. You can pick whatever 3 covers you want. You can also get all 5 covers. The cover artist that we're working with, Alice, because she does the interior, she does the standard cover. Pablo, he's one of our other main artists, so he does the first variant. And then we've got Mick Byers, who does White Ash and works a lot with Clay Adams from Fried Comics.
Nice.
And then we've got John Eddingfield, who's awesome. John is Worst in Mayhem with Ryan Kroboth. He does a lot of other Kickstarter books. And then finally we have Peter Taylor, who does a book, Blood and Stars, I believe is the book he does.
Yeah, Pioneers, Blood and Stars, right?
Yeah, Pioneers, Blood and Stars. You got it. Who is just an amazing artist too. So we've got some really good covers here. And coming up in future issues, I get to work with some artists that are I get to work with amazing artists. I have nothing to complain about, right? This is awesome.
Nice. And Sold. What do you want to leave folks with on that one?
Yeah, we still have actually the reward going to be drawn into the comic and appear as a Nuba Research evil security guard in the last third of the comic. Yeah, it's still available. You too could be drawn by Phil Apley. Fair warning, the character does die fairly unpleasantly, but I'm hoping that the right person is out there who'll just find that even more appealing. So
that's a selling point, definitely.
Yeah. So if you want to die messily in Sold, then get on the campaign now, and it's available.
Absolutely. And then See You in Hell is sort of in pre-launch phase right now, but anything else you want to do to tease folks, Eric?
I guess unfortunately I don't have too much lined up. I just the regular cover, special Kickstarter exclusive cover. I tried to put together a retailer bundle. I'm working with the artist right now for like original art, like that you can get a sketch at a higher tier. Another thing that we're talking about as possibly as a stretch goal, I wanted to make like something that was easy to mail. So obviously things that are flat. So we were thinking of making like a small board game, and then make the board itself be with issue 5. And that would be a PDF file that you could print out. It's scaled to A4, like 4 A4s to make it a A3. I get my A's all mixed up. that you can make it. So the first issue where we want to make little like paper dolls, like the little paper, like the old BattleTech game or the other ones. It's the little paper figures that you can move that you can move around the board. So that's kind of a fun thing that we're still in the development stages with, but we'd like to make it a goal, right? So with each issue you get another part of the game.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Maybe we'll try something like that.
Sounds really cool. Well, I appreciate everybody hanging with the fellas and I. Will, Nick, Eric, thank you for taking the time to share your insights.
Thank you.
And excited to see these series continue to build the followings on Kickstarter and beyond. Appreciate you all for being here. And for everyone tuning in, thank you for commenting. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We can't wait to see what y'all launch next. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, guys.
Thank
you, Nick.
The Comics Launch Planner is going to give you a roadmap so you can launch confidently, whether this is your first campaign or you've launched a bunch. Hey, I'm George O'Connor. I've kickstarted 10 projects raising over $50,000, and Comics Launch is a big reason for my success. Tyler has studied Kickstarter for over a decade, and he's going to help you avoid pitfalls and give you the best insights to make sure that you and your project shine on the platform. He's also going to help you with the mental aspect so you can stay sharp and positive and professional throughout the entire launch. This planner is going to give you the tips and insights Tyler's created from over the years of studying the platform and helping hundreds of people launch their projects. As someone who's been with Tyler since the beginning of Comics Launch and has absolutely benefited from his insights and trainings, I cannot recommend the Comics Launch Planner enough.
I've been using the tools from ComixLaunch since 2020 to run all these successful Kickstarter campaigns. When it comes to running a Kickstarter, I never thought I could do it until I started using Tyler's tools and tips and tricks. He really has this great way of putting everything together and making it so easy to tackle. So something big and challenging like a Kickstarter campaign becomes really easy to do when it's broken down into these steps. My name is Melissa J. Massey, purveyor of fine fantasy comics and tragic shenanigans. I would recommend this to anyone who wants to launch a book or a comic on Kickstarter. It really breaks down the process and helps you to position yourself well so that you can stand out and deliver a fantastic book to your audience. I mean, the results don't lie, and the pile's getting a little hard to hold, so check out the Comics Launch Planner. It's going to be the best investment you make for yourself and for your creative business.
Before Comics Launch, I struggled to raise $3,000 on my first campaign. And since joining Comics Launch, I have raised more than $370,000 across more than 30 campaigns. That's a huge difference. It's quantifiable. Hey everybody, it's Clay Adams. I'm the writer of Blazing Blade of Frankenstein, Dream Quest, co-writer of Carmilla Unbound, Prodigal Son, and co-editor of the Nightmare Theater horror anthology. I wish I had this planner years ago. Tyler, what are you doing? Get on this. Start shipping these things out. Can we just skip the campaign? Let's go.